think we're about to have trouble with the internet. Walking along might not have been a good idea. But yeah, some people are celebrating Eid today, some people were celebrating it yesterday, and coincidentally, at Speaker's Corner, I happened upon several ex-Muslims. Some all friends with each other, so not a surprise that they would be together, but some just happening to wander into the park. And they had a variety of perspectives on why they had left the religion. And I did a couple of chats. And the direction of the channel, it's a strange one at the minute. I used to chat to a lot of Muslims. Now I've been chatting to a lot of ex-Muslims. And I said it before, I don't really have an agenda. I'm just going wherever the flow may take me, but it's interesting that these things are kind of come in waves, and you'll go through phases of touching on certain topics. A topic that I wanted to address in the park, and one that nobody had the guts to discuss with me, was Jeffrey Epstein, who is now dead. Or is he? There's so many conspiracy theories doing the rounds with this one, and I can understand why. Let's first of all assume that he is dead. The argument is that he took his own life, and I mentioned this as a topic in the park on Sunday, and no one wanted to address it. This is how real the level of fear is regarding what's happened. People are scared to even talk about it on camera. They're that convinced, or they're that unconvinced by the mainstream narrative, that they think if they talk about Jeffrey Epstein on camera, they might get suicided just like he did. Well, I'm talking about it on camera. I'm not going to shy away from it. Jeffrey Epstein on suicide watch. 2 weeks ago, attempts to take his own life, unsuccessfully. In that same time frame, he accuses somebody of trying to kill him. Why would a man like that be taken off suicide watch? It seems like suicide watch is actually a code for watch this guy commit suicide. And when someone like that, with so many influential people with an interest in having him dead, you have to ask questions. And it's always interesting to see how the mainstream media spin it, how the left versus the right spin it. But this guy had enemies on all sides. He had people that would benefit from having him dead from all sides. So God knows who it could have been that would have bumped him off. And there is no doubt that the CIA have killed people like that in the past. It's been done before. Well, okay, so that's the acceptable conspiracy theory, that he took his own, that he was bumped off. He didn't take his own life. Other options, what other options are there? Maybe a rich man like Epstein could afford to pay the guards to look the other way. It may not be black and white. Maybe he paid the guards to look. I've been held captive previously in a prison cell, not in this country, and they took my shoes out, took my laces off, took my shoes away, took out the string, the drawstring from my trousers, and left me nothing to create a weapon or a noose with. How could they get it so wrong for Jeffrey Epstein, a man who had tried to kill himself previously? Doesn't make sense. But maybe he paid somebody to allow him to kill himself, if we believe the official story that that's what he wanted to do. Maybe he's alive and well. Maybe he was rich and powerful enough to have his own death faked. But you always have to imagine, what would you put money on? How you doing? Yeah, people want to be famous. If I had to put money on it, I think the influential people that wanted him dead had him killed. Gut feeling, as I say, no one was willing to speak about it at Speaker's Corner, but we can't shy away from the truth. If we think we have the truth, we must speak it, we must speak out. Do things like the Jeffrey Epstein incident happen so that we are scared? Is that the reason for it? Oh, man, I don't know. Scary times. We must be brave. You know what? I'm gonna sit down for a little bit. So other chats that came up in Speaker's Corner, we had the ex-Muslims who'd left Islam for a variety of reasons, and the usual debate came up about which is the correct interpretation of the religion. And often people that are critical of a religion will be, or will have, similar interpretations of what it means to follow the religion as the extremists. So people who are very, very critical of Islam will think that the strictest, most rigid interpretation of Islam is the real one, is the correct one, and that's why they left the religion. And I think that was the impression I got from Arman, who I was chatting to, who calls himself the secular jihadist, and you can check out his channel. And he's got another channel called Atheist Republic. He's very certain that there is only one possible interpretation of Islam, and that is the one that he's rejected. And contrast that with Hassan Radwan, whom I've spoken with in the past, who I didn't chat with on camera this weekend, but I did speak to off camera, and it was his influence that brought these ex-Muslims onto camera with me. And he's always emphasized that there is many possible interpretations of Islam, and as much as he's left the religion, I think he's still sort of longing for a version that he could accept. Some people that leave their religion, you can tell that there's sort of something missing in their life, and they never, I'm not saying particularly personally about him, but in general, something missing in their life that they never replaced it with. And an interesting conversation I had with a girl called Faye, who's also ex-Muslim, and she's only young, must be in her early 20s, and she said she's only left the religion in the last 2 years, and it's still very sort of fresh in her mind, and you can see that she's still sort of looking for something. And I sort of jokingly said, have you gone on the rebound? Have you gone to Satan? And I think this pendulum that swings in our life, it comes up again and again in your personal life, and in reality, and even at state level. So people will go from being extremely religious to extremely not religious, you'll find that the people who convert to a religion and embrace an extreme version of it may have been extreme criminals in the past. And now they go the other way and they say, right, that's it, no more crime for me. But having been obsessed with crime and addicted to crime, they become addicted to practicing a religion. And Arman, who I spoke to, who comes from Iran, and I did ask him what was living in the Islamic Republic of Iran a factor in his rejection of Islam, and he said it wasn't. He said he based his conclusions on logic, and he realized that he was believing in things without evidence, and that's why. But I think the analogy applies because the Islamic Republic of Iran went from being a very open, Western, actively pro-Western country and society under the Shah and the Pahlavi regime to a country that was completely the other way, by force. And this happens again and again. If you look at the Soviet Union, the Bolshevik Revolution, which overthrew the Romanov dynasty and the royal family in Russia who were Christians, and the Tsar was not only head of the state but also head of the church, and the Orthodox Church had a privileged position within the state and a role within society. For 80 years or so, religion was outlawed in the Soviet Union, in Russia and the surrounding countries. But when the Iron Curtain fell and the Soviet Union collapsed, overnight Christianity exploded back up. Good evening, Joe Lewis, welcome. And welcome to Dave Kiani, who's saying up to 80 years or more even. Absolutely. I'm well, Joe Lewis. Give me a sound check. Joe, are you seeing and hearing me loud and clear? And if we look at Turkey, around the similar time, there were the Young Turks in the Ottoman Empire, which was the Islamic state at the time. And when that collapsed, the Turkish Republic of the Young Turks and Kemal Ataturk was virulently nationalist and anti-religion and enforced secularism. And Arman, who I spoke to, who proudly calls himself the secular jihadist, was saying secularism is good for everyone, but it can't be good if it's enforced at the point of a gun. And this is what we have to strive for. A society that, and maybe it's impossible, maybe we've been trying for thousands of years and it's actually impossible to have a peaceful society without the threat of violence. And Dave Kiani is saying, how do you enforce it? I don't know if you can. And maybe enforce is the wrong word, because it's the word, the clue's in the word, force. Maybe we need to encourage it. Maybe instead of having to have a well-behaved society, you get to have a well-behaved society. That's a bit of wisdom from Anthony Robbins that Dave actually, who's in the chat, once lent me the entire collection of Anthony Robbins lectures. But I had to go to him. And one of the key philosophies of Anthony Robbins is when there is something that you feel you have to do and it's become like a chore, you reframe it in your mind as something that you get to do. So you get to go to work at 7 in the morning. It's an opportunity. And I do think we should strive for a society that is based on volunteering, doing things because you want to do, them. And Dave's adding, seek and you shall find, Ask and you shall be given. Well, I asked Dave for the Anthony Robbins collection, and I've got to tell you, I wasn't disappointed. And they're saying, how though? So how do we encourage a society where people are good and kind without threatening them in order to do so? How do you inspire people? Well, you start by making a YouTube channel. I don't know, Dave Carney, what inspires you to do good? I mean, I know Dave is a good person. I wonder, does he do good things out of fear of fear of punishment, in pursuit of reward, or does he just do them because he likes to be good? I don't know. And even thinking about the protests happening in Hong Kong at the moment and places around the world where there's a bit of turmoil and places that are not peaceful. Some countries are very peaceful, but if you're only peaceful because the threat of violence is keeping the peace, is that peaceful? If I open a library and I say everyone needs to be silent, this is a library, and I stand there with a gun and threaten to shoot anyone that talks, is that a good library? No one would be talking, but I hope we could have a library where people would be quiet because they want to respect other people, because they don't want to interrupt them while they're reading. And Dave Kearney is saying, I think the love you see when you work towards something positive can be the catalyst. There's a good word, catalyst. Yeah, something that is going to ignite and be a driving force. And throughout history, it's always been the carrot and the stick. Maybe that's just our human nature. That's how we're hardwired. And religion does have a good role to play. It can play a good role. When people say, I'm doing things for the sake of God, usually, hopefully, that would be good deeds. But then again, it's all interpretation, and people have used religion to do bad. So maybe that's a bad example. But it always seems to spring back up. And going back to the Young Turks and the revolution in Turkey after the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, yet again you had secularism enforced for about 80 years. Dave Kearney can tell you if it was exactly 80 or more or less. But when that finished, well, when that didn't collapse in the same way as the Soviet Union, but it petered out, and Islam, political Islam, returned. And you have Tayyip Erdogan in charge of Turkey now, whose party are of a Muslim Brotherhood type perspective, and they are enforcing religion at a state level, or strongly encouraging it. And just across the water, up in Crimea, you've got modern day Russia, who have reverted back to their Orthodox Christianity. And these are two states that are practicing religion at state level for the first time in 80 years. And religion's alive and well. And they've sort of they almost came to blows. They were backing rival factions in Syria, which is a strategic region for both of them. But luckily, through pragmatism and not through warfare, they have managed to come to some kind of mutual agreement, even though a Russian fighter jet was shot down by the Turkish military in Syria, or just across the border into Turkey. Where was he? We don't really know. Even though he was shot down shamefully as he was parachuting to the ground, having pressed the ejector seat and had the terrible emergency situation while he was floating down to earth. he was shot by the Turkish military, and that could have been a moment for Vladimir Putin to seek revenge, to be reactionary, to start a war, but he wasn't. He was diplomatic, and I admire the diplomacy of Vladimir Putin. There, I said it. And Dave Kearney is saying, so what carrot is the most effective? The carrot of love, whether you see that in faith or something else. Yeah, love. That's a good word. If only that could be the carrot, the incentive. It's a good word, and it's thrown around a lot in the Bible, but of course in the Bible there's about 4 different words for love. Eros, agape, philios. Philios being the brotherly love. I wonder, is that the type of love Dave Kearney is talking about? The love you would have for your fellow man, because we are all brothers. And if we start to see each other as a brotherhood, brothers and sisters, not just in religion, but in humanity. And Dave is agreeing. I've got Dave Kearney's approval. That's made my night. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's a difficult one. How do we achieve? Maybe we can't. Maybe there always has to be a stick. And Saj is saying the LGBT. Not sure achieves. Not sure why he's bringing that up. But you're welcome in the chat, Saj. And I've just found a good news, by the way, local news that Saj might be happy about. I've just found out that in my area they're building 7 new swimming pools. Yeah, good news. They're building 7 new indoor swimming pools. Not outside, inside. So that's good. If you like going swimming, that's good news. And Saj is laughing. Don't know what's funny about that. So other chats I had at Speaker's Corner on Sunday. God, it was all about being ex-Muslim, apart from one gentleman who was talking about capitalism being great and socialism being really bad. And he was wearing a Make America Great Again hat, MAGA hat, as it's known. And he was not a youngish man, maybe 30 odd. And I would guess from his accent that he might be African. And people do find it strange when black people support Donald Trump, because he is, as we all know, very racist, or at least that's the mainstream narrative. But there are a lot of black supporters of Donald Trump, and this gentleman was saying that all the people fleeing S-hole countries leave them to come to capitalist countries. And the Real G is saying big up from Germany, Essence for Life, thank you very much. Guten Abend, the Real G. Wie geht's? And wie findest du Deutschland? And Dave's saying, is he racist? And Tariq is also questioning, is he racist though? Why is he racist? Well, hell my racist, hell my racist. What race is a Muslim? As Tommy Robinson says. Is he racist? Personally, I don't think he is racist. We're all racist in some ways, but the mainstream narrative is that he's racist. Personally, I don't think he's a nice man. I think he's quite greedy. He's very self-centered. I don't think that necessarily means that he's racist, but that's what his opponents have tarred him with, that brush of being a racist. So this black gentleman was singing his praises and saying that the poor people fleeing socialist countries flee them to capitalist countries. A lot of socialist countries are poor, a lot of capitalist countries are rich, but does that mean cause and effect? Are they poor because they are socialist? Are they socialist because they are poor? Or has capitalism led to an uneven distribution of wealth in the world? And my argument, although I'm on the left and proudly describe myself as a socialist, is that there are bad things about both systems. It's not one or the other. You can't just say, well, socialism is to blame for everything. As Bernie Sanders pointed out, even in capitalist societies and countries such as the UK and the United States of America, things like free education or state-funded education are just taken for granted, and that is socialism. Same with free healthcare. In the United States of America, if you fall down, collapsed in the street, the paramedic has to feel for your wallet before he feels for your pulse. And as I pointed out to the gentleman supporting Donald Trump and capitalism, infant mortality and literacy rates in third world Cuba, in the Caribbean, on the doorstep of the United States of America, are actually better than in America. Saj is saying, why are you wearing Illuminati checkered floor hat? Yes, paying close attention to the symbolism. Always look out for symbolism. It's everywhere. And Camille Kellner is jumping to my defense, saying my man would never join the Illuminati. Yeah, we will explore the Illuminati at some point. It's a fascinating concept. The illuminated people, those with knowledge that others do not. And if they do exist, I'm sure they're all laughing their heads off while we argue about which way is the best way to run a country, capitalism or socialism. And we do that swing the pendulum from one to the other, and we vote Tory, and then we vote Labour, and then we vote Tory, then Labour, then Tory, back and forth, back and forth. Maybe we actually have to step outside of that paradigm and open our minds. And Camille Kellner is saying, and if he did, he would invite me. And I would say yes. Yeah, maybe we need to create our own Illuminati. And Camille Kellner is saying, guys, like this video and comment after he uploads it. Thank you very much. And share it. Yeah, don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you do like it, if you are enjoying the experiment that we're doing with this channel. The experiment continues. Lessons for life, learning together. And the good news is we've got a new logo coming up, designed by yasserali.co.uk, who has designed a logo for us, which is much appreciated. And Camille Kellner saying click the bell icon. Yeah, do all that, click the bell, but most importantly, just continue to enjoy and get involved. If anyone would like to join me for a chat, drop me an email and we'll sort it out. lessonsforlife247@gmail.com. So the final chat that I had on Sunday, rounding off the Speaker's Corner review, was with an interesting lady, another ex-Muslim who had spent 20 years or so as an atheist, gone from Muslim to atheist to eventually Christianity. And Camille Kellner saying 13333 subs. Yeah, we got 1,333. So there's a special number today for the Illuminati. We've got 333. We reached the level of 33rd degree Mason. There it is. Be proud, special day. So this individual had left Islam, and a lot of people that are religious, when they change religion, they go from one faith to another faith because they're already spiritually minded, they've already found God, they're just wondering how to worship him or her. And interestingly, I've met God and she's black. Think about it. But this individual who is very cagey, very shy, and I can understand with personal questions, and when you're talking on camera, you don't want to give much away. She didn't want to say where she was born. Perhaps that would reveal a bit too much. But you can only answer the question and get told no. If it's a no, it's a no. But she'd gone from Muslim to atheist for 20 years, and then finally back to Christianity. Now, depending on how you look at that, was that one step forward, 20 steps back, then 19 steps forward? I don't know. For me, life is a journey, and the fact that you are changing your mind about things is a good thing. And Muhammad Ali said, if a man sees the world at 40 the same as he did when he was 20, then he's wasted 20 years of his life. And interestingly, Muhammad Ali's spiritual journey began with Christianity and the Bible, and he was a very, very devout, believing Christian. And when he would travel and go to boxing tournaments in his amateur days, he would bring the Bible with him. He would read the Bible every night before he went to bed, back in the days of Cassius Clay. And then he converted to the Nation of Islam and changed his name. And I think in the early days he was, or in the very early period of his conversion, he might have been Cassius X, like Malcolm X, and then he changed his name to Muhammad Ali. And throughout the duration of his boxing career, he was a follower of the Nation of Islam. And it's strange to think, because of course he has huge support in the Muslim world as this Muslim fighter who really put Islam on the map and defended his world title, or regained his world title in Africa, defended it in the Philippines, travelled all around the world as a great ambassador for Islam. But the mainstream opinion within mainstream Islam is that the Nation of Islam is a deviant sect, that they are not true believers. So was he really a Muslim that whole time? For me, it doesn't matter. He was just a good person who changed his perspective throughout his life and wound up as a Muslim. I think in the latter years he followed a certain branch of Sufism and made bay'ah to a certain sheikh, and that's it. And now his journey is complete. He's defended his title for the last time, and he will always be the greatest. But I admire him for so many reasons, and the religion to me doesn't matter. I think the fact that he changed his mind is a beautiful thing, and we should always be fluid. Be like water, my friend, as Bruce Lee said, another great fighter who sadly died young. And he was a great believer, Bruce Lee, in training every different style, a pioneer for mixed martial arts. And certainly in my martial arts journey, you go from one style to another style. It's like changing a religion, and you find what works for you. But in the end, what really works, as Bruce Lee concluded, was to do everything. What if that's true of religion? What if actually the best religion to follow is to follow them all, to study them all, and take the good things from Islam, the good things from Christianity, the good things from Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism. All these spiritual teachers must have something to offer. And Green Like Kashmir is saying, do you believe that there's one truth, or do you think there can be multiple truths even if they contradict each other? Yeah, I think they can. It's like the two people looking at a number on the ground, and one of them is saying, oh, it's a number 6, and the other guy's standing on the other side and he's saying, no, to me it looks like a number 7. Who's right, who's wrong? We don't. Is that how it goes? It's something like that, something to do with numbers. But yeah, you get my point. I think we might even live in one of an infinite number of universes where everything is right, where there's a universe out there where even Hassan Radwan might be correct. And Hassan Radwan is saying, what is truth? Maybe reality is relative. Yeah, I'm starting to believe that. And reality is experience. What we experience to us is real. Our dreams real. They feel real at the time. This feels real now. And a friend the other day was scoffing at the idea that taking hallucinogenic drugs like ayahuasca or DMT, which they take in South America and believe gives them some kind of spiritual experience. And the idea was being dismissed as, well, it's an illusion, you're hallucinating. But if it's real for you, what else does it matter? Maybe you are the only person in the world. Maybe everyone else is just an illusion. Does pouring water on your hands and face and feet before you pray actually make any difference? Does it do anything physically? If it does for you, then that's enough. If it changes your belief, then that's your reality. Jordan M is saying there is good you can take from other religions. The Quran says so. Well, if it says, there you go. It says it in the Quran. That's a good point. And I think a lot of Muslims perhaps mistakenly dismiss things mentioned in the Bible because they're mentioned in the Bible, and as we know, the Bible has been changed. But if that particular thing that's been mentioned hasn't been explicitly ruled out by the Quran, such as the crucifixion or the Trinity or the other details, for example, about Jesus' life that the Quran mentions, if the Quran doesn't mention the feeding the 5,000, for example, but the Bible does and the Quran doesn't rule it out, then as a Muslim I would think there's no problem with you accepting that maybe Jesus did feed the 5,000. But did he really? I doubt it. But maybe 5,000 people saw what a good idea it would be to share their food. That's always what I've thought that might be. And food always tastes better when you share it. Have you ever noticed that? Pleb enforcement saying dodgy hat, mate. Nothing wrong with my hat. And Green like Kashmir is liking the hat, 10 out of 10. Pleb enforcement saying this Epstein stuff is a madness. No, yes it is. It is an absolute madness. And whenever something like that happens, it frustrates me that we'll never know. It frustrates me that we'll never know. And maybe we live in an era where we feel entitled to have information. If there's a fact I don't know, I can just, at a touch of a button, hit Wikipedia and you'll find it out. But you can't hit Wikipedia and say, did Jeffrey Epstein really kill himself? You can't get Wikipedia to tell you where Madeleine McCann is. But you can find out that in my area they are building 7 new indoor swimming pools. So if you like swimming inside or working inside, maybe as a lifeguard, if you don't like to work outdoors and you would like an inside job, they are building 7 new swimming pools in my area, which I'm very happy about. Pleb enforcement saying, yep, it's annoying. They operate in a different world. Yeah, who are they? Which world? I wonder which world they operate in. Jordan M is saying, I believe we all need guidance and morality is objective. Therefore, it makes sense to me to follow the book you believe to be true. Yeah, it makes sense to a lot of people, and I think it's easier. I don't know if that's fair to say, but sometimes it is nice just to have a handbook, and you don't have to think about, is this right or wrong? If you look at the likes of William at Speaker's Corner, who goes to great lengths to debate, discuss, philosophize, ponder upon what is right and what is wrong, and that is his real personal jihad. He is really trying, and I admire him for it, trying to decide and find out what is right and wrong, what is good, what is bad. And if you go far enough down the rabbit hole, maybe it is never ending. Maybe it will all seem so subjective, you'll just say, oh my God, just someone tell me what to do. That's why I train in a gym with a trainer, because I don't want to think about what exercise to do. I just want someone to tell me and I'll do it. And if I'm driving somewhere with someone and they're like, what should we do? Where should we go? I'm like, let me drive and you just tell me where to go. You do that one, I'll do this one. And maybe that's lazy. Green Like Kashmir is saying, do you believe Muhammad was a prophet? Well, if I did, I guess I'd be Muslim, and I'm not Muslim yet. Everyone I know is hoping for me, but I hope that answers your question. And Pleb Enforcement saying he loves new swimming pools. Yes, so do I, but remember, no petting, no running, and definitely no bombing in the new swimming pools, because they are building 7 new swimming pools. No bombing in the swimming pool. That's when you jump in and sort of hold your knees up and make a huge splash, and it ruins the swim for everyone. Well, look, we're approaching 45 minutes. If I don't finish now, I'll feel like I'll have to go to an hour. I like to finish on a 15 or a half an hour. Why do people do that? When you set your alarm, no one sets their alarm for exactly, I don't know, like 9:11. That would be a very strange time to set your alarm clock for. We always set it for 9, 9:30. Why does no one set their alarm clock for 9:11 or a strange time like that? Here is a question from Jordan M. Julian, one question. Do you believe Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, lied? That is a very difficult question. My gut feeling, from what I know of his character, is that he wouldn't have been lying. He certainly didn't encourage lying, and the Quran that he brought doesn't encourage lying either, apart from taqiyya, which is the anti-Muslims' favourite word. They all know that little bit of jargon, taqiyya, which means you can lie to save your life, which I think is reasonable. But I don't think he was a liar. And Hassan Radwan is saying that's why we have 10 commandments and not 11. I know a good joke about the 10 commandments, but I can't remember it at the moment. And Hassan Radwan is saying he doesn't think Prophet Muhammad lied either. And Green Like Kashmir is saying more people should really talk about alarms at Speaker's Corner. Yes, absolutely. I can hear the alarm bells ringing already. Well, look, ladies and gents, I know it's probably mostly gentlemen. I am trying to branch out and appeal to more females, not just on the channel, but in general. Thank you for joining me and wrapping up Speaker's Corner and brushing over Jeffrey Epstein. My last word on that, Green Like Kashmir, I'm a female if it makes you feel better. It certainly does. And good night to Hassan Radwan, thank you. My last word on the Jeffrey Epstein case is we must not let, and I'm meters from where he used to stay, Julian Assange, we must not let a similar fate befall Julian Assange, because he has a lot of powerful enemies. This has been Lessons for Life. 25% of Jordan M subs are female. He's beating me. Goodness me, I'm about a fifth of that. We'll do it all again soon, in a different time, in a different place. We were here. We are gone. Latest.